Hey everybody, and welcome back to Submarine History. So, this year is the 80th anniversary of the D-Day invasion. Last year, I was asked to do a briefing on U-boats during the invasion, but I didn't really have enough time to pull it off. But I'm going to give it a shot today for the 80th anniversary. This will be a short one, so let's get right to it. But first, read the description to this briefing. It has relevant related references and links. Last, but certainly not least, thank you to the United States Naval Institute for all they do preserving and promoting world naval history. The work USNI does is invaluable. Consider supporting USNI with a donation or membership. If you have any questions or comments regarding this briefing, post them below in the comments section. I also have a Discord for more in-depth discussions. You can find an invitation link on the channel page. For the briefing today, the main reference is a book called Fuehrer Conferences on Naval Affairs, 1939 to 1945. This is a digest with editor's notes on the conferences that were held between the Commander-in-Chief Kriegsmarine, the Fuehrer, and other key military figures. Rader would have conducted these briefings initially, then Donitz would have assumed that role in January of 1943. I also have some articles from USNI's magazine Proceedings. I have links in the description to this briefing, to the conference digest, and those USNI articles. At the start of 1944, it was getting obvious to people within the German military establishment that 1943 wasn't just a bad year, and that in 1944 the Reich was not going to pick itself up, dust off, get back into the fight, and take back the initiative. Black May, when the Kriegsmarine lost 41 U-boats in exchange for 58 Allied surface ships in May of 1943, that was a moment when Donitz had to take a step back and really take a hard look at what the U-boat arm needed to do. Not just to get back the upper hand in the Battle of the Atlantic, but just to survive, period. This would lead to the start of converting existing U-boats for snorkels beginning in the winter of 1943-1944, along with the development and production of the electro boats, the Type 21 and Type 23. Now, having said that, let's take a look at where the Kriegsmarine is in January of 1944, just 6 months from D-Day. Regarding major surface ships, and we're talking cruiser and larger, the Kriegsmarine had 12 operational ships. Of that 12, the battleships Schleswig-Holstein and Schlesien, they were World War I era battleships, not suited for anything more than training and being coastal bombardment platforms in the Baltic. The Fuehrer Conference Digest indicates that these remaining ships were either scattered around Norway or were operating in the Baltic for training. Destroyers. At this point in the war, there are 20 operational destroyers left, which represents a loss of about 50% over the course of the war to that point. A lot of destroyers were lost in the Norway operation, even though Hitler gave the Kriegsmarine surface force the big stink eye for that, and Rader probably lost his job because of it, among other things. Securing Norway was, in my opinion, a fair trade. U-boats. We have 161 operational boats, meaning that they're either on patrol or in port being replenished and refitted. 168 boats are conducting trials, and 90 boats are undergoing training for a total of 419. On average, there would be at sea about 80 to 90 U-boats per month leading up to D-Day. That would make sense. About half of your 161 operational boats are in port and half on patrol. I don't have the production numbers on me, but you were probably making and losing about the same number of boats per month, so the 419 boats going into D-Day is probably a reasonable assumption. Flotillas. At the start of 1944, there are 8 flotillas spread among 5 ports in France. I have them listed here, what the ports were and the date that the flotillas evacuated and transferred to Norway. The little icons are the flotilla emblems. We covered that topic of U-boat emblems in briefing number 33. What we see here is that as the Allies begin their breakout from the Normandy beachhead in August, the flotillas start to pack up and head up to Norway. This transfer of forces does take a little while. It's not until October that the flotillas are substantially relocated except for an element of the 7th Flotilla in St. Nazaire, which is still there, interestingly, in May 1945. So what was the Kriegsmarine battle plan to stop the D-Day invasion? This is part of the summary notes for the January 13th Fuehrer conference. This is what Donitz had to offer Hitler in terms of the Kriegsmarine effort to oppose a coming Allied landing in Europe. And to be honest, it's not a lot to offer. Let's go over it real quick. Number 1, attack landing craft with U-boats, S-boats, and coastal artillery. Number 2, protect the beachheads with RMK and KMA mines. These were simple contact mines that they could produce in large numbers quickly. And 3, disrupt enemy sea communications with the, quote, new U-boats. And these would have been existing U-boats that were actually refitted with snorkels. And specifically what Donitz is referring to in this part of the plan is these new U-boats operating outside of the English Channel, interdicting merchant shipping as they normally would be, and with the effort and the intent be to draw as much of the naval forces away from a pending channel operation. The Kriegsmarine faced a number of challenges. Not enough ships, not enough material, not enough intelligence, too many locations to defend. And the Germans were never sure where the Allies were going to land, so it forced them to spread their limited resources over a wide area. Donitz knew that when the Allies came, it would be big, so it was never an option for his remaining large surface ships to combine and make a task force to oppose the landings. That just wasn't going to happen. Really, all Donitz could hope is that as the year progressed, he could get enough U-boats fitted with snorkels and bring other new technologies like midget subs and the electro boats online to offer some meaningful resistance to an invasion. How did the Kriegsmarine fare during the D-Day invasion? Well, during that period of June to August 1944, 17 U-boats were lost in action in the English Channel. They were all Type 7s, with one being a Type D, which was a mine layer, and one Type C, which was actually a flak U-boat. And here, I'm just going to read this real quick here. These were the losses: 16 Type 7C U-boats, one Type 7D, 11 boats sunk by ship, 2 sunk by a combination of ships with plane support, 3 sunk by planes, and 1 lost to unknown causes, probably a mine. 6 boats were on their first or second patrol, and 5 of those boats were equipped with snorkels. And out of that 17 lost, 11 of those boats were equipped with snorkels, and 1 was sunk by a plane and 10 by ships. What is a positive takeaway from this data? Not knowing the time of day these boats were lost, I'm going to assume that all losses were a result of attacks by the U-boats between dusk and dawn. So no daytime submerged attacks. That would have meant almost certain destruction. So my takeaway from this data is that of the 11 U-boats sunk that had snorkels, only 1 was sunk by a plane. The other 10 were sunk by ships, likely because the U-boat crews were inexperienced and the huge concentration of ASW forces in the area. When you look through the overall loss data for U-boats for the whole war, you see that about half the U-boats sunk in action were lost to aircraft alone, typically a U-boat moving to or from a patrol location, and not necessarily why they were at their patrol location. So this could be an early indication that the snorkels were making some difference. This is a screen capture from the uboat.net website that shows the location of the 17 boats that were lost between June and August 1944 around the English Channel. If you go over to uboat.net, they actually indicate 18 boats were lost, although they only have data for 17, so maybe it's a typo on their part. One question you might have is, why didn't the Kriegsmarine use U-boats as pickets along the French coast, watching and listening for an invasion fleet? Well, they couldn't do that. You needed all your available boats to be actively engaged in interdicting merchant ships. And this is the outcome of the Kriegsmarine's efforts to oppose an Allied invasion. And I'll just read it here. Approximately 7,000 ships of all types participate in the D-Day invasion and support the beachhead afterwards. Approximately 200 ships of all types, destroyer and smaller, were sunk by a combination of mines, E-boats, U-boats, midget U-boats, and other small surface ships and aircraft. Most of those losses were from mines, with the E-boats and U-boats chipping in. I should have gone through the data to break out the losses, but that was going to start to be like real work. A number of D-days were sunk during this period, but mostly you were trying to take out things like LSTs, LCTs, LCIs, and they did take out a lot, but the Allies had thousands of these craft. And that's it for today's briefing. I hope you enjoyed it. It's short, I know. But if you have any questions, post them below or head over to the Submarine History Discord and ask your questions there. Till next time, peace out.